I don't think we're giving much away by saying we're fans of what Volvo are up to these days. And when the designer of the XC40 said he wanted to make a tough little robot, we felt we could immediately see what he was getting at. For our money though, I think we'd probably liken this latest Volvo to a faithful husky dog, and the more time we spent with it, the greater the feeling of man's best friend became. Rather than take something bigger like an XC60 and just scale it down in the photocopier, Volvo have instead created a design with its own distinct character and then engineered a smaller platform to hang it on. In the flesh, it's a little bigger than you might be expecting, but it's also packed with well-resolved details, from the familiar Thor's hammer running lights, the concave front grille, the appealing selection of alloy wheels, and, on the first few cars anyway, this cute little Swedish flag. The cabin's well thought out too, with neat touches such as the bag hook that flips out from the glove box, door bins that can easily accommodate a laptop and a bottle of water thanks to the speakers being relocated to the dashboard, little slots for credit cards or parking tickets, under-seat storage trays, a large storage space under the armrest complete with lift-out rubbish bin, and the option of a wireless charging pad for your phone. Passenger space might surprise you. There's that same feeling of spaciousness you get further up the Volvo range, the same fabulously comfortable seats, and in the back a pair of 6-footers will be more than happy, even if you've opted for the optional sunroof. The boot's bigger than you might think too, at 586 litres, rising to 1,336 with the seats folded. There are bag hooks in the boot walls and an optional split folding floor with its own integrated hooks to stop your shopping from blending itself on the way home. Elsewhere in the interior you get that same premium Volvo feeling we're used to, starting with appealing finishes across the dashboard and doors, some of which are tastefully illuminated at night, the same clear digital instruments, and the same touchscreen interface that we've grown to love, although we'd still prefer a few more physical controls, such as for temperature for instance. There are a few changes to give away that you're now a couple of rungs down the ladder though. Volvo's twisty-turny engine start control is now just a simple button on the dash, and instead of the thumb wheel there's a single drive mode button. Apple CarPlay is still an extra cost option, as is a reversing camera, both of which as far as we're concerned really ought to be included as standard, but the XC40 makes up for it with goodies such as self-parking and a host of features under the company's Volvo On Call banner, from emergency assistance to being able to start and warm up your car remotely. At the moment, the engine range consists of 3 petrol and 2 diesel units, starting with a new 1.5 litre turbocharged 3-cylinder petrol with 156 horsepower, followed by a pair of 2 litre 4-cylinder units with 190 and 247 horsepower. Diesels are 150 or 190 horsepower, while a pair of twin-engine plug-in electric hybrids will follow a little later. None are what you'd call slow. In fact, even the lowliest D3 diesel hits 60 miles an hour in about 8 seconds, while the T5 gets you there in just 6.2. All but the D3 and T3 get all-wheel drive as standard, and while the system defaults to front-wheel drive to save fuel, it can divert up to 50% of the engine's torque to the rear when it needs to. All-wheel drive is always engaged from a standstill too, so getting away cleanly is easy. And while cavorting about on a beach doesn't count as off-roading, the XC40 does boast decent ground clearance of 211mm and a 450mm wading ability. Of course, most XC40s will probably spend their time biffing around town, and it's here that you discover that it drives, well, like a Volvo. Some manufacturers spend their time banging on about how their cars have been tuned on the Nürburgring, but the thing is, most people don't even know what that is, let alone have any interest in driving around it. Thankfully, Volvo take a far more pragmatic approach, and the result is a car that has light steering for easy manoeuvrability, a well-judged comfortable ride, and reassuring handling. Now, be honest, if you wanted the last word in cornering, you wouldn't be looking at an SUV, but the XC40, in our design spec at least, surprises with keener and flatter turning than we were expecting. But it does so without sacrificing that long-legged, mile-munching, continent-crossing ability we've come to appreciate from its bigger brothers. We'll have to wait until we've been able to spend more time with the XC40 to offer any opinions about fuel economy, but the one disappointment for us is that the fuel tank is rather small at just 53 litres. And I guess you could say it all gets a bit pricey once you pick a few options. Prices start at £27,350, but it doesn't take much to find yourself nudging 40 grand. However, market analysts are quoting residual values well above its rivals, and we hear there's now quite a waiting list. That's hardly surprising, and whether you think it looks like a robot or a husky, as far as we're concerned, the XC40 is pretty much the dog's bollocks.